She came to Dublin especially to be with us tonight. So isn't that fantastic? Thank you, Lenka. Delighted also to welcome our two esteemed panelists, Kieran, who's the COO of Return and who's a bit familiar with this room. He's been here before, and to Aideen as well, Aideen Cardiff. So we'll do introductions a bit later when we move on to the panel. So thanks, guys, for coming. Appreciate your support. I'll just do the agenda really quick, and then I'm going to hand over to Peter, who's going to give you an update on what we're doing in the PMI Ireland chapter, and may say a few other words. So we're doing the welcomes. Then we will hear from Lenka on the keynote, which is leveraging enterprise agility for business performance. Then we're going to do a bit of interactive survey called Reimagining Agility. So we're going to give you some work to do. Then we'll have a panel discussion chaired by Lenka with myself and Kieran and Aideen. Looking forward to learning a lot on that. And then we will have a little bit of look ahead at what's coming for agility, what's on the radar screen, what are people thinking. And then for the people in the room, we're going to stay behind and do some networking. And for the people on the call, you're free to leave at 7:30. So that's it. I'm going to hand over to you now, Peter, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thanks, Paul. Firstly, I just want to say a very, very warm welcome to everyone. I'm delighted that you've taken time out of your busy diaries and you've joined us here this evening. So a very, very warm welcome. I'm absolutely thrilled that we actually have this event this evening. Again, I'd like to welcome Lenka. It's absolutely fabulous to have you here in Dublin, Lenka, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your incredibly busy diary to spend time with us here in Dublin. So a very big thank you to you. We are very much looking forward to hearing your presentation and having that engagement. Again, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to our other panelists and to Kieran and Aideen, who I know well, especially Aideen because she was my old boss in Microsoft. So an absolutely fantastic experience across our panel tonight, and it's going to be an amazing event. Also, I'd like to actually say a very big welcome into all of our colleagues online. We have people all over Europe joining us this evening, and it's really great to get that international engagement, to actually have people joining us on a pan-European basis. So yeah, just want to say a very big thank you. The other set of thank yous are into EY, who have very generously hosted us here this evening and are providing the venue and the refreshments. So a very big thank you into EY. Just want to very briefly share with you, I mean, as the chapter president, we've had a fabulous year this year. And I just want to share with you some of the highlights that we have had this year. So if we take, for example, back at the end of last year, we had just under 2,000 members. Now we have had a whole change of membership where we have had single membership, which is that you remember PMI, but you also have to be a member of a chapter in the world. So we have had a huge level of growth in the last number of months, and we now have just under 3,000 members, and that's in the space of having gone from January. So we're absolutely thrilled that we've had that overall level of increase in membership over the last number of months. That we're also looking recently to see that back about 2 years ago, we had 17 events over the calendar year. Now this year, we're on track to have 31 events. That's a huge increase. We've gone from having a sort of newsletter which had about 2,500 people signed up to 2 years ago, and we now have over 5,000 people on the newsletter every month. So huge level of growth. There's been a fantastic, a level of commitment from the board. We had about 30 volunteers who were active about 3 years ago. In fact, we now have over 60 active volunteers, and we have over 109 registered volunteers, which is a record. So we always welcome having that conversation about having you involved and having you as part of the chapter. So have a chat to me afterwards if you have any interest in getting involved. But we'd absolutely love to have that conversation with you and actually have you join us as part of the team. So the other area that is worth highlighting is National Project Awards. So you may be aware that we are in the 9th year this year of having the National Project Awards. And I'm really thrilled that we got the highest ever number of submissions this year in the 9 years of the awards. So we have a fabulous black tie gala dinner that's been run on the 6th of November, and we're very much looking forward to it. And that is going to be a fabulous evening, and I would highly recommend it to anybody who has a strong interest in it. So at this stage, I'm not going to hold things up any further, but I just want to say a very big thank you to you all for being here this evening. And I'm going to hand over to Lenka now, who's going to kick off the event. Thank you.
Yeah, the clicker. Thank you so much. Hello everyone. There was a beautiful series of thank you. So I wanted to mention also one more thank you. Thank you to the fabulous marketing team of PMI Ireland chapter. The way they promoted me, it totally gave me an imposter syndrome. So hope I will not disappoint. Anyways, so let's see how this works. So today we will talk about enterprise agility and business performance. I will put you to work because it's, first of all, it would be like really long for me to talk the full 30 minutes. So I've prepared some questions for you we will do it in Slido. So please get your phones ready and participate. So first, I will be talking a little bit about enterprise agility, and we have some interactions embedded in that. Then we will do 15-minute talking. Here, for people who are on site, you can talk to your neighbors at your table. And for people who are online, unfortunately, you will be thinking just with yourself. But we will ask you to record your thoughts in Slido again, and that's for a reason, because then we can look at that. And when we inform about this event on PMI Global platform, then we would love to share what are you thinking about when we talk about reimagining agility or enterprise agility. And then, as was mentioned, then we will close with a panel discussion. So grab your phones because we're starting immediately. Okay, so you just scan the code, or you can also enter, if you're on a laptop or computer, you just enter slido.com and the code is PMI. And this is my first question for you today. So what would you like to get from this session? Is there anything specific that you would like to learn or talk about? I give you a minute. Okay, how to use Agile effectively, trends and key actions, networking, tools for the day job. Love the smiley there. Okay, agility, of course. Deeper knowledge of performance impact. Love that. Okay, so it seems to be that you are all attending the right event. I was a bit worried. What do I see there? Okay, good. All right. So I've collected for you a few data points. So these are data points from different surveys. So what do we have here? The first data point is actually from one of my friends. He's a director of the IMD Global Center for Competitiveness. What do? They do research of different economies, global economies, and they are researching what makes country economies, what makes them successful. And what he's observing is that in order to be successful as a country, you need to innovate. And the reason for that is that roughly currently, somewhere between 7 to 10 years, the whole industries get reinvented, which means the business model of that industry changes. So now imagine that you are an organization and you want to keep your leadership. You want to be the best. So how often do you have to reinvent yourself if your surroundings, if your environment is changing and reinventing itself within 7 to 10 years? Another data point that I have here is that's from research from Accenture, that they are monitoring something that they call disruption index. Not only that it's a little bit like skyrocketing in the last 4 years. But they also, when they surveyed organizations, they found out that organizations report that around 95% of them had 2 and more transformations or transformative initiatives in the past 3 years. Does it sound familiar? So raise your hand who experienced some sort of transformation in your organizations. Like I'm leading one. Yeah, I don't see any hands down. Okay, yeah, thank you. Right, then another data points. So that's about expected massive impact of AI on our productivity, on global growth. And then the last one that I included there, for me, very interesting. It seems unrelated, but actually it is. And that's a report from World Economic Forum that is showing that if you combine technologies in innovation, you achieve better results. But what is key in that is that integration, which means not only being excellent in one thing, but really understanding how technologies, when you add them together, can drive greater innovation, greater results. So what is this telling us? So if you feel that the world is now moving faster and everything is changing, it's not a feeling, it's a fact. We see it on numbers. And it's not only our environment, it's not only our internal organizations, it's also us. There's another research I didn't include it here. It's also from the World Economic Forum, and they are looking at jobs, skills, and all of that. So they are reporting that the lifespan of our skills is shortening significantly, which means that we have to relearn more frequently than ever before. So things are changing, and we need to deal with that. So we want to be successful. We need to know how to deal with this perpetual change, with this frequent change and disruption. So another task for you, just like a little check before we get to talk about enterprise agility itself. So what you see here, this is a list of typical challenges that CEOs are facing these days. So would you pick up some of the challenges that your organizations are facing? I believe you can select more of them. Okay, I'll give you a minute. Okay, AI is on the top. How to turn AI pilots into productivity and growth. Okay, we have on the second place enterprise reinvention, talent and skills mismatches, regulatory policy changes. Right. So if these are the challenges that our CEOs are facing, that means that when we think as practitioners, when we think about enterprise agility, this is what we need to solve for. Because these are some of the impacts that are changing that environment, that are causing that reinvention, and that are creating that pressure for C-suite and for their organizations to reinvent themselves. So I included this quote. It's a quote from Jeff Bezos. I don't remember when he said that. It's quite a famous quote, so I guess it's out there for several years now, where he said that in today's era, there's no other way but to reinvent. And that's it, because as everything is changing so frequently, disruption is becoming like a kind of like a normal thing. We have to keep reinventing ourselves. From that lens, enterprise agility is essentially an imperative for us. So when we talk about enterprise agility, there are a couple of things, some internal capabilities that are very useful for enterprise agility. And it starts with understanding what do you need to react to? How do you filter the noise and the real information? So for instance, information acquisition and hyper awareness, that's a skill that you need, or skill, a capability that if you try to implement enterprise agility, this is what you need to have across your organization. So it's not about me, individual, Lenka, waking up every morning and reading Wall Street Journal like I do, but like, how do you create this awareness? How do you bring information to your teams? And then not only on the external, what's happening out there, but also internally, because the second capability here that is very important is informed decision making. So imagine that I read something, I learned something this morning, and I say, oh, we really need to, I don't know, invest in AI. So let me stop this project and let me launch that project because now it's more important. But what happens if I don't know what that canceled project was for? Or if I just like reprioritize resources, which means people work on something else than yesterday, and I don't realize the consequences of that. So that if I do that, then I'm actually causing waste in my organization because I'm like a little bit like chaotically changing. So that's not agility. Agility is not about chaos. It's not about like, oh, jumping on one thing on another. Agility on enterprise level is first and foremost to understand what do I need to react to? What should I anticipate? And then how to do it in a way that is efficient. And that efficiency brings to another element. So one of them is that when I move forward, I try to minimize and at the same time prevent a debt to my organization. What do we mean by that? I don't mean technological debt only. I think we all know that. But I mean, for instance, skills debt. So when we talk about AI, imagine that I say, oh, AI, cool, very important. So could you now launch your AI project? But what if my employees don't know anything about AI? How do I do that? Right? So by not anticipating, not preparing my workforce for all these challenges, I'm essentially creating a debt. So then when I'm ready to make a decision and want to move fast, I can't because their debt is slowing me down. So paying attention, how do we create depth in our organization, which can be in skills, technology, but also culture, lack of trust. All these things that we leave behind when we move through these changes and disruption, they stay there, they accumulate, and they are slowing us down. So before we started this session, there was a beautiful talk about leadership. Enterprise agility is a lot about leadership. It is about paying a lot of attention to our teams and to our people, and essentially creating environment for them to succeed. And thinking about that enterprise depth is one of the element of enterprise agility. And then the last one that I have here, this is more on the practical side, leading change in a cohesive way, which means again, because organizations are complex, we don't have typically one product. We have like lots of them. We don't have one service. When we say customer, we don't mean one individual. We mean all the segmentation, all of that. There is complexity involved in organizations. So if I want to move fast, then I need to develop the capability to make a change that is cohesive. So then when I'm creating something, innovating somewhere, that I'm not destroying something on the side. And now I prepare for you a slide because, sometimes when we say like, this is important, people are nodding and say, yeah, makes total sense. But I have this slide on purpose, which says what happens in organizations, what impacts our performance. We don't have these capabilities. Just think about it. So if I don't have information and awareness, then essentially what does it mean? I'm caught by surprise, right? And I'm already late. If I do uninformed decision making, I probably cause a lot of frustration. I look like this, oh, my CEO doesn't know what he's doing, right? I don't want that. Then if we don't care about the depth on the go, then we are just piling up this garbage in our organizations. And then again, we could never move fast. And if we don't move in cohesive way when we implementing changes, what we are implementing, in fact, is fragmented, siloed, and again, enterprise agility, it's a lot about teamwork. It's a lot about teamwork on the C-suite level, all these decision makers. It's a lot about teamwork on product teams level, project teams level, and the ability to integrate your teams across. So we also have research at PMI. We released it, I believe, in January this year, where we looked at the specific performance impacts of enterprise agility. And this is what practitioners are saying. When you have certain level of enterprise agility, the clarity and communication of strategy is better. Progress of your digital transformation is better. Project performance is better. Delivering value to customers is better. So there are all these practical elements of that. But when you think about the slides that we saw before, it really, a lot of that comes from leadership, clarity, and that cohesion. So now I have a different question for you. So imagine that you will be hired tomorrow to lead a agile transformation of your organization. So what do you think that organizations need to focus on when they are trying to achieve enterprise agility? What is that? Okay. So the first The one that is on the top. Oh, no, it's not on the top anymore. Yeah, okay, it's back. Yeah, that's a correct answer, right? we need to have a lot of clarity. It is definitely about organization culture, because when we talk about collaboration, integration, all of that, again, it's about us. It's about our ability to trust our colleagues, to rely on our colleagues, to talk to each other. So sometimes it might look mechanical. How do I do my PI planning? How do I, synchronize, connect all these sprint backlogs and all of that? But in fact, it's really a lot about how can we talk together. How can we just pick up the phone and ask, hey, I don't understand this thing. Can you help me with that? Okay, so at PMI, we did a survey with executives and we asked them the same thing, what enterprise agility means for them. How do they recognize enterprise agility? And what you see on the top, this is what they say. For them, enterprise agility is about that ability to rapidly adapt to change without losing strategic focus. And you notice probably somewhere really down on the list is enterprise agility as application of agile methodologies in software development. So we are really past that. We are really past that belief on a C-suite level that agility would be about practices. It's really about that ability to adapt quickly while keeping that strategic focus, which means knowing where am I going. It's very interesting that according to a concept of anti-fragility, I don't know, did anyone hear about anything about that? Anti-fragility?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a concept which is propagated by
Nassim Taleb.
Nassim Taleb. So yeah,
It's about making individuals, organizations uh, succeed in case of disruptions.
that's about it.
Yeah, anti-fragility is a concept exactly about that. How do you get stronger when you experience disruption? It's a little bit more than resilience, because resilience, that's like, how do I bounce back where I was before? Anti-fragility, how do I get stronger? So these are the organizations that can truly leverage disruption for innovation. And when we look at enterprise agility and this concept of anti-fragility, there's really a big overlap there. These concepts are very similar. So with this survey, we also had other questions. So we asked executives, what do they see as main benefits of enterprise agility and what do they see as main obstacles? So for them, main benefits are about faster decision-making, innovation, speed to market. And obstacles that they see is this depth, essentially. Legacy systems, culture inertia, organization structures. So when you think about enterprise agility in your jobs, would you agree with this list or would you put something else on the top 3 benefits of enterprise agility or top 3 obstacles? Or do you think that this is just about right?
There is the topic of change management.
Change management, okay.
Challenge to many companies because they're trying to be agile, they're trying to implement new things, and there's, people within certain organizations stuck in the past.
So that's a great point. And the reason why I asked, because I was hoping for some answer like that, because in our work, what we are doing right now, and I don't know if you follow us on social media or if you come to PMI conferences, we announced at the conference this summer at Agile 25 that we are starting the work on the new manifesto for enterprise agility. And during that work on the Manifesto for Enterprise Agility, we are surveying executives and we are also surveying senior practitioners to understand what are their views on enterprise agility. What is very interesting that the views are not the same. And so, for instance, what is very important that for C-suite, this is what they are looking for. And as practitioners, what we are looking for are these ways how to achieve that, like change management, like cohesive change. And as long as we can talk together and understand how these practices contribute to these objectives, then we are all good. That's also one of the reasons why we are working on this manifesto, to establish this dialogue and connect C-suite and practitioners so that they truly understand each other. Because enterprise agility is a strategic capability, enterprise-wide capability. We need that to serve these objectives of our C-suite, to answer these challenges that we talked about at the beginning, like 15 minutes ago. So when it comes to transformations, And when you look at these challenges, organization structure is resisting, people are resisting, culture is not right. Yeah, we all know that. So when we think about transformations, why are transformations so hard? Because enterprise agility, we would say like it's awesome. It's about transparency, it's about empowerment, it's about access to information. Who would not want that? But of course, when we think practically about all these agile transformations, the thing is that the world keeps changing. It doesn't stop for us. It doesn't give us space to transform properly and come back to the market in 3 years. And so for me, I forgot to introduce myself. I was agile transformation leader before I joined PMI for a couple of years. So when I was talking about transformations, I typically use this picture because this picture for me, this is the essence of transformation. There's a driver, the car is moving, and these poor guys, they have to change the tires on the driving car. So when we are transforming organizations toward greater enterprise agility, we really need to put a lot of focus on trust and empowerment, because during the transformation, there's no way that you would be able to control every single step of what is happening. You need to have a vision for enterprise agility. You need to have skills in your teams, and you have to trust them and let them go. Because imagine that in this car, the CEO would be the driver. He's driving, but he has to rely on these guys who are changing these tires. And at the same time, whoever is changing the tire, they need to trust the driver that he's not going to crash. This is the trust, this is the teamwork that is so essential when it comes to transformations and enterprise agility. On a practical lens, when we were looking at that research of C-suite, these were some of the themes that were coming up. So this is what we are looking for. This is what we would like to achieve. Adaptability, responsiveness, cross-functional collaboration, of course, innovation, speed decision-making. But then what we need to look at is what is behind that. How do we get there? So for instance, when we talk about adaptability and responsiveness, it's really about understanding the why behind everything that we do, understanding the purpose of the organization. Because I can't adapt just for the sake of adapting. Like if there's something that is forcing me to take a step left or right, I still need to understand where am I going? What is my guiding star? Where do I want to get? So with that being said, I wanted to close with an invitation for you. This work on enterprise agility is quite important for us because we believe that we can really connect people across communities, connect C-suite practitioners, and we want to achieve that by creating a new global reference, an artifact essentially, to talk about enterprise agility. So what we're doing is that we are engaging community practitioners, C-suite leaders like you. So if you would be interested and would want to contribute to this effort, send me an email. And if you have experience with Agile, like you should because you are here, right? Then I can invite you to an online survey and then you can become a manifesto contributor. If you are C-suite, I can invite you for executive interview. Then you will even be online. But seriously, if you are interested in this work and would like to help us, please let me know. And we have different forms of engagement because we believe that this work is really important and that dialogue should be happening. So that's all from my side when it comes to this little speech about enterprise agility. So I hope that now you're thinking like, yeah, this is what we now want to focus on. And to give you some space to think about it, I have prepared for you another little exercise. So what you see here, these 10 challenges, I know that they don't fit on the screen, all of them, but if you use your phone, you will see 10 of them. So these are the 10 challenges that the community of Agile Alliance puts together as they call them wicked problems. They call them wicked problems for agility. And what we are doing as PMI and Agile Alliance, that we are running different workshops across the globe with practitioners and essentially empowering them to brainstorm, to try to find some solutions for these wicked problems. So the first task for you is to rank them, and then we will see what will end up on the top. So I will give you a minute. Don't forget to push the submit button. And after that, we will engage in some discussion. So let's wait until we have, 15, 20 responses. Okay, I see 21. All right, so what do we see on the top? Creating agile leadership and culture, aligning agile practices with business value and governance, scaling agile across organization. Okay, these three look like our winners. Oh no, foster innovation and continuous learning practices. Okay, so remember these three challenges. And now the task is this. So I will read it again loud. So the first one is creating agile leadership and culture. The second one is about aligning agile practices with business value and governance. And the third one is scaling agile across organization. So what I will ask you to do now is, if you are here with me in the room, just look around and start talking to people at your table. If you are online, then we will give you a little bit of quiet time. And I will ask you to, when you are here physically, just assign a facilitator around your table who will be responsible for recording your thoughts in Slido. That will be the next Slido question there. If you are online, then you can go to the next question in Slido and just start recording it. And I would like to ask you, what do you think that is driving this challenge? Why is it happening? When I go back to the slide, why is it difficult? Why is it a challenge for us to create agile leadership and culture? Why is it difficult to scale agile across organization? What are the drivers behind this challenge? And then indeed, what can we do with this challenge? How can we overcome the challenge? And if you see any top actions that the organizations or you would like to take to address this challenge. And here in this chat, you can record your answers. We will work with your answers after the event because, of course, we are very curious. What do you think? And then I was hoping that with PMI Ireland, we can create some article about this event and just share what you think. Don't worry, it will be anonymous. The Slido is anonymous. We're not going to quote you. But we are really interested in what practitioners, agile practitioners, communities of practice in agile, what are you facing? What are you thinking about all these wicked challenges? So is that clear? Okay, everybody is nodding. So I don't know, how are we with the time? Are we still good?
Good on time, yeah, perfect.
Perfect timing. Okay, so we will give you 10 minutes, 10 minutes to discuss. And if you are online and if you have some questions, feel free to put it in the chat. And again, we can look at that after. I can't promise that we will be able to answer your questions straight away during the event, but I will definitely read your questions and then we can see how can we answer them. All right, so 10 minutes.
Agile, when I worked in Black Cross. Did you got those free?
Translate
Collaboration.
their language.
Oh, really nice. Okay.
Yes, when we work in a project team with aligning the software development and overall enterprise in all the departments, it's like the scaling is getting more difficult. I think because of the legacy system, which we use is
Like
everyone is aware, but the practices which we have to do with the day-to-day activity. I don't think people follow procedures such as
The other side, it's like.
Like actually
They can understand the flow. Very abstract
leadership learning center. Yeah,
It's one separate purpose. So they are really
like how the way it impacts how the way we work as well. Yeah. That's the organization that changed from what we was agile organizing the actual problem that so we slowly went into Kanban with the yeah. Because it was the team members that find it difficult to adapt to the agile, so we were using what we adapted to the Scrum harmony, so slowly we moved into agile.
Yeah, I think that's sorry, yeah. What their mindset.
regulated markets.
Everybody would have.
These channels, that's what I'm speaking. There's no irrigation. And that's what
You have 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
agile.
It's everyone on your. Explanation that every kind of council is the one that we call.
What is the interaction like? Kind of
Training, you know, yourself like. Oh, yeah. It's just a tap.
You're saying I want that. With AI as well.
Why do you want that?
It's interesting.
That's for the introduction.
AI is not of and it gives us it's an obvious one, but there are technical things. So yes, but maybe should be able to
Now, and I'll be later.
And why your kid?
we are scaling at a very big scale. We are scaling at a fast.
We scale and highlight these kind of
Now I will smile for you.
Upside down for me.
All right, so we have 1 minute 40. So if you didn't start writing yet, now's the time, because we are excited to see the outcomes of your discussion. And I started to read it. And I see that a lot of you actually picked up that challenge about creating agile leadership and culture.
software teams, there are
So I think that was the one that was voted on the top, right?
agile to those teams.
Yeah.
Stepping in, you want something. Best.
So because we have one more minute to close this exercise, and I would encourage my panelists to look at that if they can, because I will have some questions for them. Yes, now I caught them by surprise. That's hyper awareness, right? No, so try to look at these, because I think there are really interesting insights here. And because we will kick off our panel discussion by reflecting a little bit on this debate that just happened online. And to get there, can we please put back the slide that was with these 3 top voted challenges? Yes, one more slide back. Yes, here. So these are the 3 top challenges that you were answering to. And so first one was creating agile leadership and culture. And I saw that a lot of you actually picked up this challenge and shared your thoughts. Aligning agile practices with business value and governance. That was the second one. And scaling agile across organization. So thank you so much for all your thoughts, for all your discussions. Thank you for everyone who is online who contributed. And now is the hard part, right? So now we will invite our panelists on stage, and now I'm done, kind of, right? I'm just asking tough questions. Now it's all about them. And so let's have some fun now. So where did I put my paper? Because of course I don't remember anything. So let me now welcome on stage Kieran.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, this is my third time in Dublin. Second time, that was recently, it was almost 3 years ago. This is when I joined PMI, but then 25 years ago, when I was a young consultant, I was working for an organization and we were building a data center here. And I really struggled with my English because, I come from the post-communist country, so my English was very bad. But here in Ireland, I could not even order a sandwich. No one understand me. So I still struggle with that a little bit. And when I came here, the memories were coming back when I got in a taxi and they're asking me like, which I figured is probably where do you want to go? So Kieran and Aidin, if I say it right. So come on stage. Round of applause for our panelists. Yeah, you can take these seats. I will come a little bit closer. Oh, yeah, and Paul, of course, Paul. So, Peter, yeah, now you're gonna, Paul, oh my gosh. Yeah, don't mind me, it's evening. So, welcome my panelists. So before we get into the discussion, I would like to ask you for your brief introduction. So let me start with Aidin. And it's not only introducing who you are, but I would like to know, what is your passion for Agile? Why are you interested?
Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name's Aideen Cardiff. I was absolutely delighted to come here. It gave me a great reason to kind of review my experiences and learning over years working in leadership roles in the technology industry, and kind of have lots of notes. I've kind of caught up with myself on the whole topic. Just a little bit about myself. As I said, I was in career. My career was technology. So technology is all about constant change between new technologies coming along, new strategies, organizational change. But I'm actually lucky in that I was quite comfortable with change. I actually, as a person, I'm one of those cohorts that actually get excited about what the opportunities are on the back of change. So today I actually work as a non-exec director on two boards. One I chair and the other I'm part of the board and also the ARC committee. I also have a few sustainability projects on the work. So just down to kind of what gets me excited about and passionate about agility, enterprise agility. That was a hard one, actually, because I didn't necessarily align passion with enterprise agility. When I look under the next layer, let's say, I think about, as a person, I've been always curious and interested in people and what their points of view are and what makes them tick. And that's a personal kind of interest and passion. And of course, with change being hugely aligned, successful change being hugely aligned by human activity and human engagement, that's kind of where I left it. Just two quick stories to kind of give you an insight into some of the early learnings around the importance of leadership and culture in relation to organizational change. One was in my very early part of my career, I moved from an Irish indigenous, very successful company into HP. And in the first day I walked in and I couldn't believe that there were desks around me, an open plan office with the MD, the financial controller, the chief HR, all around, accessible to everybody. And that was a bit of a shocker coming from an indigenous company. The second part was they gave me a book called The HP Way, and it outlined behaviors that leadership like to have. And they had management by walkabout. And I found that fascinating, And the third part of that was I was invited within a month for lunch with the MD, and I thought I'd done something terribly wrong. But actually, that was part of the management approach to invest and understand about their new employees. Just the further side of that, and I promise I'll stop then, was going to work in a French wine cooperative after I finished in HP, had a successful career there. And I saw some opportunities I went to join them because I wanted to learn French, and they were good enough to give me a job. And I saw opportunities to help them sell more wine through a loyalty system. And I asked for a meeting with the VP. first of all, he was horrified that I wanted to speak to him directly. I mean, that was totally whoa. And the second thing is when I suggested that there might be some ideas to help them sell more wine through their loyalty systems, he said to me, your job is to serve customers and keep the shelves stacked. And that was two kind of other ends of the scale in terms of learnings that I've brought into my career.
Wow, so that was impressive. And you know, when we were chatting before this, before the event started, I have to confess, I thought that we connected with Aideen, but now when she says that the passion for enterprise agility was not, now I feel like, wow, okay, because I live and breathe with enterprise agility, right? I'm very excited by that. Anyway, so Kieran, can you beat this wonderful and inspiring introduction? And the question, what is your passion for agility?
I think the answer is no, I can't beat it. But I'll say something anyway. Hi, my name is Kieran Hope. I'm actually currently the COO at Return, which is the Irish Deposit Return Scheme. I'm only new in there this year. Before that, I had the pleasure of the last almost 4 years here in EY as a consultant in the customer practice. I think when listening to Aideen talk about background and how it inspires you into this world of agile, my life has been agile. You know, my career has led me all over the world into all types of industries. I started out in engineering at college, but then I went from there into writing music and doing sound for film and TV in Los Angeles for 18 years. And agile there was you created 300 odd pieces of music over the course of 2 months to see if anybody liked any of them. And if you were lucky, they said they liked 30 of them and they rejected the other 330. And you had to be comfortable with this. And I remember bringing one project into Disney, and they said, well, we're not really sure what we like here. We like a bit of this, we like a bit of that. And I said, it's not your job to worry how you bring this together. Just tell me what you like. And they said they like this, this, and this. I said, I'll be back on Monday. I come back on Monday, bringing those together. That's agile for me. You know, that's what it meant to me at my core, going, stop stressing over what's right and wrong. Just move, move, move. I think another thing that inspires me in this world is just, I don't think glass half full kind of defines me enough. I'm more likely if someone comes to me and says, I have an idea, it's this. I will never, ever, under any circumstance, say it's not doable. Instead, I will start dreaming up ways that it's doable. And I've done that for years, and I know it's part of who I am. And now in a leadership role in a business where we're trying to transform and grow quickly, like for those that don't know the deposit return scheme, there's a process going on across Europe where these schemes are going out in multiple countries. The goal is to have, you know, more bottle to bottle recycling going on. Most plastic goes down through the food chain, comes in at bottle level, but goes back into nappies or into trays, and that's just bad. Basically, more virgin plastic comes in. But the exercise here is you've got places like Sweden and Norway that have been doing this 20, 25 years, and they've got a fantastic practice set up, and everybody buys into it. Hearts and minds are one. In our country, we're 18 months into it, and we've gone from 0 to 76% in 18 months. And we've already seen change, but you can imagine the battle you have when you're trying to deal with all your senior stakeholders, which are for us, all the recycling companies that we deal with, that with a, you know, might be somewhat competition against. When we look at the bottle producers, whether, you know, we're talking about Coke or Britvic, these massive world entities. When we look at all the retailers that you go and do your deposits in, whether it's Tesco, Dunn's, Lidl, Aldi, they're all on our board, and they all have different opinions. And I think it's an understatement to say you have to think in an agile way to go in and satisfy all these senior stakeholders. And just the last point on this, on my personal journey to it, has been, I suppose, working in the trenches and now taking a leadership position, trying to go, what do you do at a C-suite level to drive the connection, which is very interesting on one of the topics you had. I find leadership aren't scary. They're not there trying not to connect with it. Instead, I think maybe we could do a better job at explaining that it's about those business objectives that deliver the purpose of the business. That's what we get out of bed doing. My CEO has asked me to run his business so he can focus on the press that he has to deal with, the government challenges that he has to deal with. And then as you come on down, you're going, what's your part in that journey? We're all trying to make his life easier. Someone else is trying to make my life easier. And we all have the same destination, which is the original objectives were there. And in this type of accelerated growth where we're 18 months in and somebody else has been 20 years in, the only way to catch up is be agile rather than just sit and just plod along. So there you go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm very inspired by that as well. And our last panelist is Paul, and he's the leader of this group. So feel free to introduce yourself if you believe that no one knows you yet, but I think they do. So maybe we can jump to the second question, which is, what is your passion for agility?
I would say, Lenka, it's like I came into consulting as a career because I like to try and fix things and to leave things in a better place, to make a difference, to have an impact. Something is better than when you got there first. And my passion for agility is seeing the impact that it does have. It works, seeing the impact on the business product owners, on the teams that work in it. So I'd say every client that I've worked in over the last 15 years, once you go through the initial pain, people see the benefits, and you see when people get those benefits, and you see teams happier working that way. For me, there's a huge personal satisfaction in that. It feels good, when you see things dropping into place, when you say, like, trust me, this will work. And when teams start adopting it and they deliver results, and when, say, like a head of function or a director says at the beginning, I don't care how you do it, I want my results, it needs to be done. And then at the end of it, when they turn around and say, yeah, that was good, that works, keep going, that's what works for me. So it's the impact, and I get a lot of personal satisfaction from seeing people succeed.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. So these were the easy questions, right? Talking about our passions. Now the hard one. So my first question would go to Eileen. So when we look at that list of challenges that people here in the room and people online voted that if we solve for them, we would achieve the greatest impact. The first one was about leadership and culture. So why do you think that this challenge was voted as the most impactful wicked problem for agility?
I mean, it's a very complex and large question you're asking me, but in my experience in leading successful change, setting the tone and having the strategic plan clear at the beginning, behaviors, model the behaviors as a leader, having the right leader in place is crucial. And I think we've seen it, my examples as I used, the HP way, it's probably was well ahead of its time. But more recently, when we think of organizations like Microsoft, where I had the privilege of learning from some of the best in terms of how they've shifted in culture, how they've embedded that, first of all, at a leadership level, having the right leader in place who has the adaptive leadership skills to be able to set trust as the foundation for successful change. And I really liked something that I saw around trust, and it stuck with me. And that's the importance. To build trust, you need to have an equal measure, the three of having the right logic and judgment on one side, empathy on the other, and at the top of the triangle, authenticity. And ensuring that each of those are in line as a leader is crucial for how you bring the organization through change. I think when we look at culture, obviously the leader's role in modeling the culture and behaviors, what is celebrated in terms of success and who are the heroes in the organization sets the tone. And then more on a broader level, I think what really stuck with me was understanding more about the growth mindset. And I remember thinking to myself as a parent that I've really let my kids down over years because, without understanding the importance of recognizing effort and learning and growth, we tend as a parent to kind of of give them compliments for their talents and, you know, what we think they're good at. And that fundamentally changed how I thought about a learning organization. And I think there's a huge opportunity for that to be embedded through the modeling of that by the leaders themselves. So ensuring that, and when we go back to some of the feedback here, how you can bring some of the project management or change leadership skills up to the C-suite or into senior leadership. You know, if leaders are open to learn and to acquire skills, to progress the organization, and they measure them and reward that effort, I think that's fantastic. One other piece actually is, and it's coming back to Microsoft and how they shifted to recognize 3 circles of impact. So at every performance evaluation, what is looked at is not only your own efforts and impact against KPIs, but you're also asked about how you've helped others, and that creates that collaborative piece, and you're measured on that. And then the third piece is how you've learned from others and applied it in your role.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So there's like a lot of nuggets in there. What I would just comment on that is that I talked about environment is changing, organizations are changing, but also expectations from leaders and the leadership itself is changing. There was recently research published by the Center for Creative Leadership, and they essentially talk about the situation for leaders that now they are leading in what they call a polycrisis environment, which means there's no just like one challenge and I have to solve for that, but there are so many challenges, and that creates more requirements for cognitive abilities and dealing with complexity. And something that I love, it's called polarity thinking, like thinking short term and long term at the same time. So leadership is discipline that's also evolving. So that was our top challenge. But Kieran, a question for you. When you look at these challenges that they were voted, is there anything else that you believe would deserve to be on the top of these challenges, of the most impactful challenges to achieve enterprise agility?
Yeah, it's a great question. 2 of the 3 things that were up on the top were on my list. The third one that I wanted to push up there was the one about developing the healthy environment for the teams. It's kind of like before we roll out agile across the business, it's like I've personally been just going through it now, so it's very real to me at the moment, about trying to get the team set up to actually understand it and to collaborate together and to change the rules of engagement and to change the ways of working and to just settle it in and to start bringing in project management as a concept, like we were talking about it earlier. Actually, we were talking about it at our table. The idea that when I first put some, like, this is what we'd like as a report in front of everybody, you could just see like crickets and, you know, every their brain spinning out of control. And it was like, what's the problem? And it's like it overloaded people who hadn't had that experience before. So like, these aren't qualified people as project managers at that. They're people who were trying to introduce and want to get involved, but it's too much. So to try and minimize the change, it was about stripping back the requests to go, well, what's at the core here to try and support this team? And I know we were talking about the, you know, proper governance and proper leadership, and we're getting all those things in place. And I think Aileen talked about it, pretty much the things that I would have said if I was asked that topic. But when we drop down into the team level, it's like, now that that's all in place, this team needs to be sorted. And I can't tell you how much effort it takes to just get them with a set of artifacts that work for them. Like, you know, not artifacts that work for me or work for the leadership, where you're saying, I want to see this. And then you go and you can ask all you want. You're just overloading them and they can't do it and they don't function well. But we changed it into a way where we make it simple and we introduce gentle, like, can I have 2 bullet points a week? You know, can you just give me these 2 milestones? The only thing you have to tell me is if it's on target or not target. I'll write it for you. And suddenly people start engaging and they start filling in the form. Then you're walking around the office and you start hearing people talk about the form. And then you start seeing people with their screen open and they have the single report page up. And before you know it, they're starting to live the journey. And, you know, our next step on this is actually trying to bring in the concept of OKRs to drive some of the things that you're talking about. And, you know, one of the key results that matter to me is we've just developed an understanding of what is our vision and principles for our team, you know, aligning back to the core of the business. And developing this, instead of going into the world of, we didn't want to make counter values to what the business had as values, but instead we came up with a series of principles we wanted to deliver as a team so that we could hit these goals. So for the key results, one of the interesting things that I've done before, and I'll do again in this case, is I try and take those principles or values, whichever way we're looking on them, in this case, they're principles, and I give everybody a score of 100% and say, you're living that value. So that's the way I think you're doing it. Now, in your one-on-ones with your manager, I want you to have a ruthless reflection each week and go, did you live the value? And I'll give you 10 discretions over the course of the quarter. So every time someone gets it wrong, they have to dock themselves 0.1 off the one. And, you know, it's really important for us as a leadership team to get with the program and do this to ourselves, so that when we're in those report meetings and we're saying, like, because it's happened before where myself and a VP who worked with me were the only two, we were down at like 6 and everybody else was still at 100, and we're kind of going, you know, is anybody, are we the only two fools here? Is everybody else just perfect? But it slowly but surely gave people permission to start reporting honestly, which started healthy conversations at a one-on-one level and started driving them towards the principles and values that we want, all aligned around this. It's all circular to me. It's like we have our strategy sits here and it's supported by the ways of working and by the data health, because we're a very data rich company. And then this is in our little circular world, obviously we're talking about there's things on the outside that support that, but at its core, it's the strategy, the ways of working, and the data, all in an agile sense. Because honestly, we come into work every day and we've no idea. I think somebody talked about what gets you out of bed in the morning, maybe for work. And for me, it's not go into a 9 to 5 job. It's to go in and go, I actually don't know what's on my desk at 9 a.m. That energizes me. And, you know, it's not the chaos of it. It's actually focusing and saying it focuses me to go, I can organize this. And maybe it's back to that comment earlier I was saying about whenever I see somebody saying, what can I achieve or do? My brain immediately goes, oh, it's just exciting. It's just like a problem. I get excited by a problem. So that piece about the team building, I personally try and drive it through the team to inspire them to go, come on, we can do this together. And I get as buried in it as we have to then stand back. And I think I'll shut up after this piece, but the last comment was just, it's really giving people permission to fail. I'm big into that. So like that's what I'm talking about. These, I assume they're doing all the principles correctly, but I'm allowing them to fail. I'm allowing them to fail 10 times. And if they get stressed by that, I'll go, okay, well, we get to fail 15 times? Like whatever works for the room, I don't care. What I really want to do is get on with it and start talking about the targets. And when they're doing the projects, you know, I encourage my managers a lot to just with their staff to give them a bit of space, give them that permission to fail. And we all need to know what we're looking out for in that moment. And that, to me, creates that agile environment. Thank you.
So that was very interesting because so you talked a lot about challenges that are associated with team agility. And that's a great segue for my next question for Paul, because I mentioned that as PMI and Agile Alliance, we launched this work on enterprise agility. We have these C-suite surveys. We have also answers and thoughts on enterprise agility from senior practitioners and then also from a little bit more junior practitioners. And what is very interesting that even if we ask them the same question, they still see enterprise agility differently. And, you know, normally that would not be any issue, except that, as you might probably notice, in the agile space, the fact that we see that differently depending on our situation, if we are more on the practicing side, solving issues or driving the strategy, it created certain disconnect. It created, sometimes you hear it on social media like, oh, no one truly understands agility, right? Probably heard that. So Paul, why do you think that this is happening? And why is it happening, especially when we talk about agility? What is the reason for that?
It's an easy question. The answer is very hard, but the question is easy. I think you used the phrase earlier, it's a wicked problem, because the problem isn't clear and the solution isn't clear, and it's not clear that everybody will be happy with the answer. There are conflicting interests. So I think it's normal that people will see it differently because it's a complex challenge. And then I think Kieran mentioned earlier, there are different layers. Different people have different goals, objectives, different things to do, the CEO, the COO, and so on. And so I think yes, it's normal that I think yes, it's you would expect it that they would have different answers, and I think it's normal. So I'm thinking, for example, back to a transformation I worked on. If I think of, say, 3 different roles, it was a whole site was doing an agile transformation, right? It was a software engineering function. There's maybe 800 people working at that site. For the MD of the site, the goal was internal competition. If my site is not the one building this, the site in Sweden or in China or wherever who already has transformed, the work is going to go to them. And what am I going to do then with 800 people? For the product managers who sat there, they had a completely different problem to solve, which was we have our lead customer and our lunch is being eaten by a competitor who's much more agile than us, who can release stuff faster, who can promise things quickly and act on it. So for the product manager, it was all about the external competition, and for the internal teams, it looked completely different. They wanted to do their engineering jobs, but they didn't want all these layers of management to make decisions. They just needed to be able to have the right environment to move with a bit of speed. So, but it's all connected. It's all the same system. The right operating model is the answer here. Kieran, you used the word circular, meaning it's interconnected, and it is. So yes, it's normal that it looks different depending on your point of view. But the key thing is people have to recognize it is actually joined up. It is a system. And I think in the example that I'm thinking of there, the amount of effort that the management team went to communicate that purpose, why we're doing this, and to map out the journey that people are going on, and to take them through that journey so they understand, the objectives, how it was going to happen, their role in it, to bring it all together. I think that's the key point. So yes, it can look different, but as long as you understand the bigger picture on how they're connected, and that's absolutely the job of the leadership to do that, to clarify the purpose and the system, and then that creates the alignment, and then you empower people to go do it.
Thank you. I heard something that one of my favorite words, which is complexity. It is complex, right? And when we look at organizations as systems, essentially what you're saying is that in order to achieve that enterprise agility, we need to achieve it on the level of the system. Then we play a different part, but we still need to recognize the part of others. And that's that true teamwork that is really essential for enterprise agility. So with that being said, and also with the time ticking, we essentially have to close our panel. I will give each of you only 30 seconds. Pressure is on. But this pressure creates diamonds. Love that. So the pressure is on. So you have 30 seconds to share one advice, either for C-suite or for practitioners. But what do you think that would help them to be aware of that complex environment and at the same time to foster that dialogue? Essentially, how should people in organizations that are undergoing these agile transformations, how should they talk together? What dialogue should be there so that they succeed together as one team? 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I suppose one that I would share. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, use the mic. That's the diamond. I believe that with the stat you shared about the requirement to innovate in such a short cycle of time, organizations, if they, have that need, like we all do, to actually present a vision of where they're going. I would say one of the things that I've used really, really successfully to bring cross-functional teams together on one message is design thinking. I know we've, communities of practice, they're equally, successful, but design thinking, bringing those different stakeholders together to peer learn, to peer share, to understand the challenge, to come up with the ideas and to basically present that back into the organization is hugely powerful.
Oh, I love that. Okay, Kieran, what would be your advice?
I think I'll take the bi-directional approach here. For leadership, it's about the word that was used earlier. It's about being authentic. I think the accelerated way to get people on board is to be who you are. In my world, it's integrity. I carry that, I wear it on my sleeve, and when people learn it about me, they start to know he means what he says and he means well. But when we're communicating with the project managers that work in our business, for them, the effort on my part is to try and convey that, back to a comment I made earlier, that we're trying to deliver the core purpose of the business. We're trying to, in my case now, deliver this circular economy and a better future for next generations in the country. It's very, very high level stuff. And how we're doing it is you come down a bit and we hit our recycling targets, and you go, okay, so what's your job in this as a project manager? And it's like to do the thing that you've taken on, that we've asked you to take on, but be agile enough that you're comfortable enough with your sponsor to be honest about what's going on. And when they pivot, don't fight them to try and say, but you said we wanted to do this. Listen, educate yourself as to what the ask is. See, can you re-educate them to say, I think I can still deliver what you wanted originally, and if we make this small pivot, or stand your ground. But either way, it's not a, sometimes there's a, say enemy, it's a strong word, but it's like there's a antagonistic thing going on back and forth, and it's best when it's not there, because we're actually all fighting the same fight, which is for that core purpose. So I think if leadership is authentic, and if everybody tries to collaborate and communicate well, it leads for a better agile environment.
Yeah, that's a great thing. And when you talk about authenticity, now imagine that your CEO would come to you and say, "These are my issues. This is what I have to deal with every day. So how can you help me?" Which is a little bit different approach than, "This is your project, deliver," right? But just like, let C-suite to bring you in your game, and vice versa. So I love this authenticity piece. Okay, Paul. So what would be your advice?
30 seconds. It's get in a room regularly and be agile about agility, because it's a journey, especially at enterprise scale, and the path is very unclear. You know, whatever, you can be very clear in your goals and your outcomes, but how you're going to get there is never going to be clear. And just break it down one problem at a time, and get together and figure it out.
So get together and talk.
Talking is good.
Yeah, human element there. Okay, perfect. So
Can I throw in one last thing?
Of course.
I promise it's just 10 seconds, but it's something Paul said triggered it. It's like sometimes we can overthink the methodologies that go with when we talk about agile, or we talk about, oh, is it Prince 2 or is it this or whatever. But it's really the knowledge that comes from those methodologies that empowers you to say, what piece do I want of this? What piece do I want of that? And that's true agile to me, is where you're not so stuck in it, that you're pulling the right pieces for the job and for the situation, because that's what makes you brilliant, you know, so.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So round of applause for my panelists. They did amazing. And one more round of applause for yourselves, because you did amazing during all these exercises that I prepared for you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So for people who are online, you are now free to go. But for people who are here, you are free to network. So all of our panelists, they are staying. So I believe they are open for questions and more discussions about agility, and of course, networking within each other. So I will now hand it over back to Paul and Peter.
Thank you, Lenka. I was trying to get the most important slide of the evening up, which is the PDU code, and the reason you're all really here, I know that. So we'll try and get that on this slide. There we go. And for people online, grab that. Leave it on the screen there for a few seconds. You have to be quick. And then I'm just going to wrap up with a few thank yous once all the. I have a long list on the next slide, so I need to see my slide notes so I don't forget and offend anybody. We're all good? Okay. So I would say, oh, okay, I don't have my notes, so I'll just go back to the other slide. Look, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lenka, for coming all the way from Paris to be with us today. We really appreciate that. Thank you, Aideen and Kieran, for being our panelists. We really appreciate you supporting our community. Thanks to the Agile COP team, to the chapter in Ireland, all the marketing, all of the event management, photography, panels, everything that it takes to put all this together. Thank you very much. I always end on a call to action, and my call to action is get involved in this community. We can do a great thing here in Ireland and in Europe and across the world. I've worked on several communities of practice, and it's a very passionate place. this agile space, project management in general, but particularly I think the agile space. So do lean into it. Come to our events, volunteer, suggest topics, be a speaker, engage on social media, and get involved. So please do. We'd love to have you, and spread the word. We'll do a good thing here. So that's it. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you, everybody, and hand over to Peter.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, I just want to say very few words. I want to thank you all again for being here this evening, but I particularly want to thank Lenka and the panel. Now, Lenka, I think I'm right in saying this. I think you're the most senior employee in PMI who has ever visited Ireland. So we thank you very much for that.
Okay.
No,
I'm going back to my imposter syndrome. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But-
And I was recovering.
that we're thrilled that you've taken the time, that you've specially flown over here to actually join us. And I think it is absolutely fantastic. It's been a great topic. I've loved it. And I want to say thank you to Kieran. I want to say thank you to Aideen. And I want to say a big thank you on behalf of the board and to all three of you, that we're thrilled that you're here this evening. And I just want to say thank you to everyone else who has taken part this evening. Super. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.